Hi everyone, welcome to TECSperts, where we here at the East Carolina talk about the upcoming football game.
Trailing East Carolina by 8. Frazier across the field, boom, what a big hit.
This is Tori Poole, one of the football beat writers for the East Carolinian.
Taking a shot up top. Coverage on. Touchdown, Pirates.
Adam Decker, the only returner from last year besides me, who has now gone from football beat writer to football editor.
Just watch here. He's trying to cradle it. That ball never hit the ground.
This is Jaron Honeycutt, our other football beat writer. Hello, welcome to TECSperts. Today we're going to talk about ECU's upcoming football game against UConn. And of course, we're going to talk about last week's loss to Cincinnati. So guys, what did y'all really see from that game last week?
Just same old problems we've seen, we've really seen in all of the losses, ECU, they were kind of in it down the stretch, leaving you, a little bit of hope that they're going to come back and maybe, mount a comeback. But then, the big Anthony Scott fumble really just plagued them down the stretch right there. And it's really been the tale of the tape this season is that they fumbled the ball, thrown interceptions when they're in the red zone. They can't capitalize on the opportunities they have. And like in a game where you're down by one score, maybe 10 points, to turn the ball over, that's a big momentum swing. You know what I mean? Right. So you're giving the ball back to the other team. Maybe it's in short field. So really just the same problems. We really didn't see anything different. So
it's like deja vu all over again. I mean, it literally from the first drive, ECU, they start out looking good. I mean, they always do it, and then not even in the red zone usually around once they get into whoever they're playing's territories. In this case, Cincinnati. The drive ends up stalling, and then here you see next thing you know it's the middle first into the first, and they're behind 2 scores, and then like Adam touched on Anthony Scott, that fumble, we've seen that before.
Yeah. And
he had lost one earlier in the game, and Coach Mo was really disappointed and saying they're going to have to go in another direction. But after a while, the fans aren't the ones that are going to keep touching on it. That you got your coaching staff, and then you got the people above you saying, hey, this we're going to have to see who else is working, and now we're going to have to see what Sean Furlow can do.
Yeah. We've seen at the running back position, this is the second or third change we've seen because, Anthony Scott got that starting position based on what he and Scotty Mo said that he got it because of how quickly he picked up the playbook. So he got like a jump start on everyone. But now with his turnover troubles, we saw them go to James Summers as listed on the depth chart as the first running back, and they switched up, got him a little more involved out of the backfield. And then now Anthony Scott, still had a crucial turnover in that game. So now, Sean Furlow is going to step up. So, we'll see what this rushing attack's going to be like now without Anthony Scott.
And they said that was. I'm sorry.
So why Furlow instead of Anderson?
Well, really, Furlow was highly touted coming into ECU, and just what the problem has always been with him is picking up the playbook.
Yeah.
And it's really been tough because I'm sure you come in as a freshman and whoever, if you're slow, you're slow on it. If you're fast, you're fast. You either pick it up or you don't, basically. And coming in, Furlow, picked up what he was given under Ruff, and then there goes Ruff. So now he's had 2 years, 2 different playbooks. So is he a redshirt? So he's just a sophomore.
No, he's a sophomore. He played last year.
Yeah, that's what. So.
Another thing I'm going to say is they kind of used Anthony Scott once they shifted James Summers into on the depth chart at least they shifted him to the number 1 running back. They kind of used Anthony Scott out of the backfield. He was a scat back, kind of using a little bit more of his catching ability out in the open field, trying to get his hands in the ball in the open field. But Devin Anderson's more of a downhill physical runner, so maybe we're seeing that change really because Furlow, he's a little quicker and shiftier.
I think every chance Devin Anderson's been given, he's really made the most out of it.
All right. So, Tori, you had a column this week about the defensive line and not getting pressure. So what do you think ECU can do to bring pressure and to get sacks?
Well, the biggest thing is bringing pressure with just the front 4. It's easy enough to just bring extra players and load the box, but then you're leaving the backfield open, and that's where the problems lie. And we don't have, especially with Corey Sargent being out and stuff. Whenever he was hurt, you weren't able to have that kind of depth in the backfield to do that, to bring players forward. But they've got McGill back on the line, and so bringing that pressure and getting these quarterbacks, especially this week, with I'm trying to think of his name, Sheriffs. Bryant Sheriffs. He has just been all season long. Like, he is one of their lead. Like, I think every single game he's been the leading rusher, if not the second leading rusher. And it's going to show this week if they are able to change what they've been doing and, you know, start bringing pressure. I know McGill's first game back, it was kind of difficult to, you know, start making those changes and stuff. But I mean, when you're playing a pocket passer like Gunnar Kill, it shows a lot whenever you're not even able to get pressure on him, and then it's going to show even more against mobile quarterbacks.
Something that I think Jaron has said on multiple occasions, either on TECSperts or through his writing, has been a lot of times games are decided in the trenches.
Mm-hmm.
You know, it dictates the game and how the game's going to go. And then even Brian, our colleague Brian, brought up to Tori and I yesterday about ECU's running a 3-4. So a lot of that pass rush is with the linebackers, with the outside linebackers.
Right.
So you can't necessarily blame the entire defensive line. We saw the dismissal of commissioning early in the season. They've been banged up, they've been injured, they're thin at the defensive line. But what about players like Pratt, Dayon Pratt, or Giannis Bowden? Giannis Bowden
he was a second in sacks last year.
Monteese Overton it was Joe Alley got banged up last year. Bowden came in, and Bowden had 3 sacks against SMU, if I'm not mistaken, or 3 sacks in 2 games. It was something, and he was on a hot streak, and we haven't really seen that out of him this year. So the linebackers need to step up as well as the defensive line if they want to get any sacks. And I saw that their ECU is last in the nation in sacks because they only have 1 on the year, which is an absolutely embarrassing, ridiculous stat. But the second to last team in the entire nation has 5. So even if ECU gets 4 sacks this week, they're still sitting at last place in sacks, which is just how have you played 7 games and gotten 1 sack? It's just
last season they had 25 total in the season, so it's just it goes to show how far behind they are from last year.
They don't have a true pass rusher like last year. That was Overton, Monteese Overton last year. That was his calling. So they're lacking in that.
And you know, I don't think we can all agree that you can't blame it on the secondary because this is one of the better secondaries we've seen on this come through East Carolina.
Right. So I'm going to ask y'all one more thing before we start talking more about UConn. Do y'all think that ECU is their record?
No.
Yes. I feel like they played well. You look at the South Carolina game, they played well. You know, they were moving the ball all kind of yards, and you know, they just throwed interceptions in the red zone, turning the ball over in the red zone, and you're not going to win a game doing that. They just continuously shot themselves in their own foot. If they were sitting at 2-5 and lost the South Carolina game because they did that, and it was only 1 game, okay, maybe they got their act together. But for this to be a reoccurring thing every week, you know what I mean? That has to be fixed. And while I think that they played better in some games than others, and you can't turn the ball over that much like that, only have 1 sack. There's just not a lot of things going on, and it could be that they've been away from home the last 4 of these 5 games that they've lost. So they have been, since I've been here, a different team on the road. So maybe this week we'll see more proud ECU team come out with a little fire in their stomachs.
I feel like honestly, like Adam says, if they're not much better if they were a different if their record was, but really it's going as someone who's gone, speaking for someone who's gone through it, it's just so weird dealing with a coaching change because you have mentalities that you have to get together, and unite the team on, like, we have to like Montgomery and we got to let Ruff go where, that's not going to happen for everybody. You're going to have your crowds that want to stick with it, and it's you're trying to wash things and get new playbooks in, and then, there's teams know how to beat ECU. I know that ECU's done it to themselves this year, but there is a formula that coaches are looking at on tape, and like we were talking about deja vu earlier, we see it every time. We see a team that's had the lead all game by a touchdown or 2 on ECU. ECU comes back, and the team automatically, in the dying minutes, late fourth quarter, they know how to put ECU away every single time. Cincy or South Florida's a long pass to Rodney King, This past week, let's see, what did it this past week? Was it another long pass?
Yeah.
We had the interception that was overruled and then or overturned.
That really
right
hurt.
after they went deep.
They went deep on, yep.
Yeah, and I understand, and Montgomery was right. You got it, after that play when they went deep on Sargent, they did good. They knew that his self-esteem was down and everything. That doesn't matter. I'm sorry, that doesn't matter. You have to. That's the first thing a DB learns is to have a short, memory, and he's got to get back in coverage for that. And that's those are inexcusable. You can't get beat deep at the end of the day, and that's what happened even after that. And it's tough because you need your seniors to look at your younger guys like Sargent, who's a sophomore, and say, hey, it didn't go our way, but we can't. There's nothing we can do about it. You have to, we have to, bear down, and that's what they're not doing right now, is bearing down when they need to.
Right. So there's a lot more that we could talk about as far as what's wrong and what's the problems, but we have the UConn game this week. So tell us, what do y'all expect to happen in the UConn game?
If the UConn defense comes out to play, ECU's in trouble. And what I mean by that is, in every game UConn's won this year, their defense has come out to play. They beat Cincinnati, only allowed Cincinnati to score 9 points. So if they come out and do every game that they win is through their defense. The offense, the most points they've scored this year is 27 points. And, in the NFL, okay, that's still not great, but, you can win some ball games. But in college football, 27 points really isn't that much. And, so the offense they've just been really, really lackadaisical this year. So if ECU can come out and put some points on the board and this offense moves like everyone thought it was going to be at the beginning of the year, if it's as powerful as everyone thought, then ECU's sitting pretty. But if this defense really gets a hold of ECU and ECU's struggling, banging up Philip Nelson, can't move the ball, ECU's in real trouble. So I would say it's the ECU offense versus the UConn defense that I'll be looking at.
What's you guys? I cannot think of it to save me. The UConn's kicker.
I don't know.
He's their best. Besides Noel Thomas, he is their best offensive weapon. And I'm sorry, excuse me. I mean, I've always been down on kickers, so I don't really look up the names or anything like that. But even Mo touched on him in his press conference that he's an NFL caliber kicker. And Noel Thomas, who's there, Zay Jones is great, but really they have problems like ECU. They cannot punch the ball in the end zone. But to where they have those problems, they also have a kicker who they can trust every time that they don't. Yeah. And Plowman.
I believe Plowman's missed a field goal in every single game, correct?
Yeah. And you'll also hear, old coaching wise tell you don't leave it up to your kicker anyways. But
yeah,
it's just I think that
Another interesting thing to watch will be either Sargent or Colby Gore. I would assume it's Sargent going to be matched up against Noel Thomas because, like you just said, he's the Zay Jones of Connecticut, whereas he has 70-some receptions, and the second leading receiver has 34. So it's something with just a massive difference in the statistics, and that's much like Zay Jones we've seen this year. So that'll be really interesting. A young cornerback in Sargent going up against a tested and proven wide receiver for UConn. So that'll be another thing to watch as far as when ECU's on defense. But you shut Noel Thomas down, you shut UConn down, which you can vice versa. Shut down Isaiah Thomas, that's pretty much been the only player ECU's leaned on.
Yeah, Zay Jones.
Yep.
Yeah, and Summers. Hopefully, I'd like to see. I mean, ECU really, they've honestly been running good. I really think the last 2 weeks they've gone out and ran it good when they've gone to Summers, and sometimes it gets turned to a point in the game where it's not that far of a game and they've been running, but just during a drive they'll shift it. They'll start throwing. They'll attack the perimeter so much, and the O-line's sitting there dominating, and you're getting 4 or 5 yards off James Summers. I know he can't go all day, but you got Devin Anderson who can, ground and pound and stuff like that. I wish ECU could stick to the run game a little more. I know they do run it a lot, but that's because they run so many plays.
Yeah.
Look how many plays they run. I think they're top 10 in the nation in plays, right? Maybe number 1.
They keep going so fast. They're a fast-paced team. They just keep moving up to the line, so that doesn't help either.
Yep.
Yeah, exactly. And so, I know, like Montgomery said, Summers does need to get in better shape. So that you wonder why he would say that to a guy who is already playing every position, because he must expect to run him 25 to 30, maybe 35 times a game.
Well, I think we're going to see a lot of changes in here. We saw now Sean Furlow is going to come in. We haven't really seen much of him, so that could just be one change ECU's making. I feel like at this point, sitting at 2-5, riding a 5-game winning streak after starting the season out so well. I feel like we're definitely going to see some changes. They desperately need to come into Dowdy-Ficklen Stadium and get a win in front of the home crowd. Like this, it just needs to happen for the team, from a morale standpoint, for the fan base. It just needs to happen. So I wouldn't be surprised if we're seeing, different personnel. We're seeing blitzes. Like, they need something
Desperate.
needs to change.
Especially with these games coming up. I mean, it's just there's no easy game. And you still have Navy coming up, and once you
Navy,
got your
Temple's on a roll.
yeah,
They're all
they're
confident.
all good.
They're
right
all
now.
Tulsa
conference.
just beat Houston.
They're
Yes.
all
They're
all conference games, and SMU just beat Houston. So yeah, but ECU, has a history of these last 2 years beating the teams that they had. They beat Tulsa last year, beat SMU last year. So I wouldn't say, if they get in a little groove, ECU could definitely do it. They've done it before, but not with the way that they've been playing. And I said in the column I wrote last week, I said that this was the soft part of their schedule, like their conference schedule. It is. Navy got moved to the end, Temple's at the end, so they got South Florida out of the way. So so I feel like if there was a time to win, it's
last
within
week.
these next couple of weeks. Yeah, it's last week.
Yeah.
Yep. Yeah, they got a 11 game homecoming win streak on the line.
So
Yeah, we'll see what happens. So we're gonna go now to predictions to finish it off. So we're gonna start down here with Jaron first.
What did I say, man? I think let's see. I was Pirates 27-19, I think is what I said, because 27, I think I'm pretty positive is going to be the number they're going to need to score, because they haven't scored. I feel like in so long they haven't scored over 20.
UConn hasn't scored more than 27.
Yeah.
Like on the whole season. So.
Yeah, and ECU never can get there because it's always like they're getting this 25, 24 that they're getting beat by.
So Adam, what do you think, man?
I took ECU 35-24, and to be quite honest with you, I don't know why I did that. I just feel there's absolutely no reason someone with a sane and intellectual mind should pick ECU at this point. They have not looked very good, and that's to say it mildly. So I'm taking ECU. It's a home crowd, homecoming. They haven't been home in a while. They just, this is, I feel like, out of character for ECU, how they've been playing this year. And I feel like they have to turn around at some point. I could be wrong on that, so I'm just going with my gut. That's really all I can say. And the UConn offense is just that bad, so that's why.
All right, Tori, finish it off for us.
Okay, I'm pretty sure that I said 30-27 ECU, just because I think it's going to be a close game. I think it's going to come right down to the wire, and it's going to be head to head the whole time, and because it's going to be an ECU home game. I mean, I think that's why ECU's going to be able to pull it out in the end. But I mean, like Adam said, they really haven't given us anything to prove that they're going to win this game. But I think that the odds are in their favor as at this moment, and we'll see how they do.
All right, that was TECSperts. Thank you for watching. Watch us again next week.